Today I'll be discussing some new features along with the addition of a new model type within our energy recovery product line called the HRM-Z. The HRM-Z is just actually an optimized version of our standard HRM-H, and what we've done is actually implemented a fixed slope that will help to optimize recovery during heating or cooling mode. But to get started, what I'm going to show you is one new feature that we've recently added, which is the submittal icon. And as you can see here, I have a project that I just created for this video. I have two line items, and if you take a look at your project schedule screen, you can see that I've actually incorporated two toggles here, one for each line item. But we can actually select whatever line item you want to output a submittal for. Previously, if you had 10 different selections or 10 different line items, every single line item would be output to a submittal. Now you can actually select whatever you want and just output that specific line item. So that's a pretty cool feature. Saves a lot of time, makes things a little cleaner. So I encourage you guys to kind of mess around with that and output different line items within even different product types. So the next thing I want to show you guys is the actual addition of the two model types that we've just introduced. Here we have our selection input screen. The layout, as you can see, hasn't really changed. Everything's still the same. The most important thing is this upper left box here, which shows the quantity tag, the model HRM, and the model type. And if you click on the drop-down menu, you can actually see that we have the two new models. We still have the standard horizontal, meaning horizontal tubing, optimized for heating, and then optimized for cooling. So if you guys aren't sure about the differences, one thing that you can actually do, which is a new addition to the screen, is right next to the drop-down menu, we actually have a little info icon. So if you click that, it actually goes through a description of each model type that we have. And here, if you look at the right, we actually have some pictures depicting the different model types, starting with optimized for heating, optimized for cooling, and standard horizontal. And you can kind of see the slope here on the pictures, just to give you guys an idea. But what I have here is a standard selection, 10,000 CFMs. These are winter conditions. Since I'm starting with heating, I have 32 coming in the supply and 72 entering the exhaust. 6 rows, 12 fins per inch. And I'm going to go through, hit calculate. Now, as you can see, this screen hasn't really changed. The first thing I want to point out is the addition of a prompt. So right here, you can actually see that it says heating performance when optimized for heating. These units do work in both seasons. You're just going to have a higher performance or effectiveness depending on what it is you're optimizing for. In this case, the higher performance is going to be during winter conditions. And just so there's no confusion, we've also updated the picture here depending on what you previously selected. So since we're doing optimized for heating, this is the optimized for heating picture to give you an idea of the layout. And underneath, we still have the psychometric chart and the economic analysis. That hasn't changed. I'll do a video here in the next month or so, kind of getting more in depth as far as economic analysis go. But that's something you guys can mess around with. And what I'll do now is to continue. So this is our drawing page. The layout or the template hasn't really changed, but what has changed is the unit drawing. As you can see, the casing itself is actually still square, or rectangular, I should say. Everything's squared as far as the angles, but what we did is just actually slope the inner coil. So in this case, the slope is from the exhaust to the supply, and what that does is help the refrigerant flow back and forth between the exhaust and supply. So I encourage you guys to play with dimensions. We do have different flange sizes, top and bottom flange sizes. Those do vary, so just mess around with those to see what the overall dimensions are, depending on what fin height and fin length you choose. So another thing that I wanted to show you guys is a selection when you're in summer conditions. Again, if you're optimized for heating, it doesn't mean that the heat pipe is not going to work during summer. You're just not going to have as much recovery when compared to winter conditions. So we have, again, optimized for heating, Remember, this is a fixed slope. So we have summer conditions entering at 95, supply and exhaust entering at 75. Again, it's the same unit. We're just doing two different conditions. And we'll calculate. And if you look at the prompt here, you'll see that it says cooling performance when optimized. Cooling performance when optimized for heating. And if you take a look, the effectiveness is a lot lower because, again, the refrigerant is kind of having to work against gravity. But what's important to know is that when you typically deal with energy recovery, you're worried about total BTUs that you're recovering per year. And the offset, or the difference between what you're gaining in winter and what you're losing in summer, it's actually still more. Again, depending on where your location is. The further north you get, the more or the better it is to optimize for heating because that's where you're going to get most of your BTUs. Going into the drawing again, this is the same unit, we just did a different selection. Nothing's going to change. Again, remember this is a fixed slope, so if you start selecting optimize for heating, it's going to be the same orientation even if you're in summer mode. And that pretty much wraps it up. Again, just a quick little recap. We've included a submittal icon, which you can kind of just toggle back and forth. That allows you to select specific line items when you want to output a submittal document. But more importantly, the ability to select our new model type called the HRM-Z. And again, you can either select between a unit that's optimized for heating or optimized for cooling. Thank you guys for watching. There'll be more videos in the upcoming future. I hope you actually took something away from this. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us.